This is part of the Foundations of Data Visualization. I'm Stephen King, a professor of emerging technologies at the University of North Carolina. This video specifically will be learning the basics of Excel. We're going to go over the basics of Excel. This is a great tool for working with data, for cleaning up data, for finding insights and being able to get it in the format that we need for our data visualizations, and it's a great way for us to learn and see what we have. If you haven't worked in Excel, this tutorial is going to give us a basic run through of some of the things that you might need to know, and then in future videos we're going to work on some more of the advanced things in Excel. So maybe it's worth you getting a little refresher, or if you don't know it, please go ahead and go through it. One of the things I want us to do is just start with some basic understanding of the interface. So this is Excel and Mac, the latest version. There's some formatting things. We're not going to do a lot about formatting because we're not creating these spreadsheets to be viewed by others. It's more about our own understanding of the data, but there's a lot of things here that can help us. So let's just start by opening the file in your folder. So it's called Excel Start Data. And first thing we have here is, let's get an understanding of what we have. We have several columns, A through G, and several rows, 1 through 35. We can sort and change these, but let's first talk about selecting. So I can select a single cell just by clicking. I can come over here to the far left and click on an entire row, and it will select the entire row, where I could copy and paste it. I can click on the top of a column and select an entire column. I can also hold Command and select multiple cells and copy those or select them. And so there's a lot we can do with selecting. Okay. We also might want to change something to a particular data type. So we can select by highlighting, and maybe we select the entire row, and I might set this as an amount. So I go over here to the top and click $, right? I can do the same for this, and we have selected it and made a change. Sorting. We want to be able to sort our data and understand what it is, so maybe we want to say what is the most number of units sold in this case. So I'm going to click on this column, E, and then I can go over here to the far right. You see the A to Z, and I'm going to sort from largest to smallest, and it's going to give me a dialog. And in this case I want to expand the selection because I want it to control all of the items in the row. So watch what happens when I click sort. It's not just going to sort this column, it's going to sort all of them so that this column is the main one. So made our sort, and we see that pen sets have sold the most units and the desk has sold the least. There's also lots of other sorting options you can come in here and do, and you can do a little bit of filtering by a particular way. The filter thing is nice because it just kind of adds this this little tool here that allows you to do this very quickly. So instead of having to do the select and get that dialog box every time, you can do a sort with that. So I like adding the filtering to my top row. Sometimes you'll have a lot of data with lots of columns or lots of rows, and you might want to hide some of it. So let's just say we don't care about the rep or the region right now. So I can highlight one or two or many columns, right or control click, and go to hide. And so now those columns are hidden. I can see that they're hidden by this little green notification here right between the A and the D column. Obviously C is missing there, so that's hidden. And you can do the same for rows. So if I wanted to hide a few rows, I can do that. To unhide, you just go back and select where you were, right click, unhide, like that, unhide, and then I'm going to do the same on the rows. Okay. Now this set of data doesn't have a lot of rows or lots of columns, but imagine if you had thousands of rows and you were scrolling through, you might not remember what So this data set doesn't have lots of rows, it's just using it as a sample. But imagine if you had hundreds of rows and you start scrolling and you can't remember what each column name was. So one thing you can do very easily, just select the top column here, go up to View, the View panel, and click Freeze Top Row. And then now when I scroll, those headers stay there. You can also do the same thing for the first column or specific columns that you want to do. And so that's a really helpful thing when working with large data set. Sometimes you might need to merge two cells together. If you, say we select these two columns and we can go back to Home and click Merge, and basically that's going to make that one big cell. I don't do this often when I'm just working with data, but if you're making a dashboard and you want to do a little bit of more formatting and moving some things around, that can be really helpful. Sometimes you just need to find something in the sheet. You can hit Command F and just start typing, or you can come up here to the top right, and I'm looking for Gill, and I hit it, and it's going to find the next one. If I just keep hitting enter, it will go to the next reference of that. Okay. Working in cells, there's a couple of things we can do. One is formatting. I've already mentioned how you can set the data type for this. So units, maybe we want to do that by the number of decimal places. So we've got lots of different types that we want to do. I'm going to give it a decimal here just so we can play. Okay. Now, what if I only wanted to show one decimal place or two? I can minimize that. It didn't actually change the data in the formula. It actually holds all those decimal places, but what does it display allows us to see that right there. You can also play with, formatting a particular cell. So if I want the total to be bolded, I might select it all and do bold. Now, when we're exporting our data, none of this formatting comes out, but it does help us to see things a little bit easier. And if you're making your spreadsheet for a boss, that can also be helpful. So let's talk about referencing a location of a particular cell. So if I wanted to add up some particular group of cells or just a few of the rows, I can hit equals and select one particular cell. So I'm going to select this one, and you'll see it says G35. Each one of these cells is addressed by their column letter and their row name. So this one is B11, right? And so C15, D15, right? And so that's really helpful. We can also do that across multiple sheets. So if I have a value here, I'm going to be back on this sheet. If I hit equals and I go to sheet 2, click on this A3 and hit enter, now that's being brought over from one sheet to the other, which is really helpful when we're working with lots of data on lots of different tables. Now let's work on some deeper formulas. The equal sign is very helpful. It helps us to do those addresses, what we just showed, but you can also do formulas with it. So I'm going to type equals, and then I can start typing a formula like sum. So I want to sum this, how many units we have here. And if I do parentheses, I can sum the entire column, enter, and then I get that. I could do the same thing on the next one, but also a nice little feature is just click and drag it over, and I grabbed the bottom little corner there, which was a little bit hard to grab there, and I pulled that over, which basically copied the same formula over, just changing out the column name, okay, which is really nice. You could also sum, particular cells. So if I wanted to say equals sum just this one, and this one, and then close the parenthesis and do that. So we've got the sum. Now we can also do other things like, say we want to get the average of these, but I also don't want to I want to make sure I don't get the average including the sum. So what I'll do is I'll type equals average, and I'll fill it in, and then parenthesis, and I'll select the ones I want, or mostly the whole column, and then hit close the parenthesis and hit enter, and it averages all of those. I could copy that and do the same thing I did earlier and paste, and notice it's not copying the actual number, it's copying the formula. There are lots of other ones that we can do, so I want you to play with minimum, maximum. Basically the way you do it is go to a cell and hit equals, and then if you start typing a letter, you'll see all the different formulas that you can do, all the different functions that are available. You can also see several of them up in the top right. When you click over here, you can see several options that are the kind of typical functions. If you want to see all of them that are there, click more functions, and you can search through and see all the different things, formulas that you can apply to various pieces of data. And one more thing I want to show you is working in the formulas can be hard in these little boxes. So up here in the top bar, you can start writing your things. So if you have a particular thing, you want to say, I want to take this cell, it puts the idea, and multiply it times 0.25, and then maybe I want to do this. You can use your order of operations just like in traditional math, and you can divide that by 2. Whatever you want to do. You can build these formulas all right here in the bar, and it's a little bit easier to do, and hit enter, and then now you've got that displayed. So we've covered lots of these. Count easy, just counts how many items are in there. It'll add it up basically. Minimum and max is basically what is the minimum number in this column, what is the maximum number in this column or this row, whatever you've put in, and we showed some. So lots of different ones for you to use, so start playing with those and see what's available that you might not have thought of.